Hello, dear friends. I hope you're doing really well. And I wanted to bring to you a two-part video series. So we'll do some today and then some another day this week around, and I know I've talked to you all about this for years and years. So if you're new to these videos, you can go back and watch past videos around the reasons we do sensory tools for those sensations and feelings of fight, flight, freeze, or please. Why we talk about it's not really even a good idea. It's a necessity to learn how to be a compassionate witness, to be curious, and to understand the function of why sometimes when we say we want to get better, then we have thoughts, beliefs, and activities that directly hijack that. Well, what's the function and purpose of that? And so today's video is going to be about just a little bit of I hope to just give you guys some information, some education. And then in the next video, we're going to do an exercise to actually start doing it. All right. So this is directly the stuff that we do in our one-on-one work with clients. Sometimes we think that dietitians just like, here's your meal plan, have a nice day. I wish that was as simple as it is. Otherwise, that'd be great. We'd have so many people not with years and years and years of chronic dieting and binge eating and disordered eating if it was that simple. And we do that work. We do help people, meal plan and learn executive functioning skills to plan and shop and eat and make good use of their food and nutrition education and helping people with health concerns. We do all that. But if we don't deal with these things, it's hard for all that to stick and to land and to be lasting and for you to feel like you've got your true self-led energy to do that consistently. And so these are the things that we have to kind of deal with first and along the way so that, like I said, you can land that every single time you're hungry and stop when you're full most of the time. So it's a little thing we kind of call basically who's at your table. So we're going to do that exercise next video. But today, I want you to start thinking about what is inside. What's happening in your insides that may be preventing you from being able to execute consistently getting your food needs met. All right. So those of you who have heard the intuitive eating book or have utilized the intuitive eating workbook, have taken, worked with us one-on-one, have done our intuitive eating workbook groups, you'll recognize all this stuff. But if you haven't, I'm glad you're here and you can kind of get a basis on that and you can reach out to me if you want to go deeper on your own with this kind of information. So, just be thinking about your insides and what seems to be the beliefs or drives or aspects or parts or however you like to name this, that when you consider, okay, I think I'm hungry, or I'm not sure I'm hungry, but I'm going to be curious about that, or I have a health concern and I want to do XYZ. And when you start to think about that, maybe you do it for a couple of days, or maybe you can't even get through one meal of it and this stuff starts to happen. Maybe you have a part who finds fault with what you're going to do for all kinds of reasons. We'll call that the critic, right? Again, maybe you have a part that thinks its job is just to perpetually restrict your food or be a dieter. Or maybe a part that's very highly concerned about your health. Maybe you have a part that does all the competing of winners and losers in life with food, basically. That it's kind of all or nothing. The same thing as the comparer inside of us. And these are basically parts that just kind of override our body's needs to match or to do what they consider better than somebody else. And they're just really concerned with external metrics to prove value and worth. Maybe we've got a part that's always comparing our past bodies, our past selves to what we're doing now. Part of us isn't ever able to kind of grow up with where we're at now and our current selves needs. Of course, food police, that's going to be part that assigns food. Again, that might be kind of similar to orthorexic kind of parts, right? course, last week we talked about last week we talked about the perfectionist part of us that is really just trying to guard against rejection. We might have that, running the show with our food. Have part of us that's more isolating, that tries to like protect, to take up less space, to like isolate from other people, to hide needs, hide the body, hide in general. And then we might have parts that like do compensation, that people please, always trying to like make up for perceived flaws. So if you have any of this, and this is just a small sample of things that we see on a weekly basis in people, that's just something to think about, that, do I have any of that running in me that's hijacking my ability to hear my internal signals of hunger and fullness? Because again, these aspects of us inside, they just think they're doing a job, but they do, underneath that, there's a whole lot of charge, all right? There's a whole lot of parts of, something deeper that's been hurt, with feeling deprived, worthless, shamed, trauma, fear, hypervigilance, rejection, all that. It's underneath. These parts are what I just talked about, like all these kind of like critic and the dieter and all that. They're underneath that is some pain, essentially. Okay. Then we might have other parts of us that kind of do a little bit more like extreme stuff, like more dissociation with food, like just kind of graze and not check in, check out in general, just block, blocking sensations from the body, constantly checking, you can be the hypervigilance, body checking, and these things are all, these parts I'm talking about are all kind of responses and reactions to these other things, like being criticized, like the critic or the food police, things like that. All right. And of course, overeating, binging is an extreme response to fear of emotional, physical discomfort, those kind of things, just even the disappointment of being so criticized and the shame of all that, right? Of course, we know self-harm is a kind of an extreme response to emotional distress, can't be bothered with our food needs, our body and our food and needs to move or whatever is a chore, maybe parts of us that minimize our needs, and kind of cutting off some of the needs in general, and just it's distraction, that you use maybe over exercising, scrolling, just to suppress needs, hunger and fullness, other kinds of needs. All right, so this isn't, when we are able to identify these things in ourselves, there's no need for shame. It's like, oh, I see, this makes sense now, that like this week was so big and hard. I was out of my window of tolerance. I was watching some kind of show, too many podcasts, something triggered some of this kind of stuff into this autopilot response that I don't want to be doing. But this is kind of what the autopilot faux safety is, some of this stuff, okay? So we are going to talk about, again, another video, maybe how to map this out a little bit and just pick one. Pick one strategy right now that seems to be the most, I don't like the word bothersome, but the one that seems to be hijacking the most. And again, it's not about trying to cause harm. It does in the big picture, but in the here in the immediate moment, it seems like the solution. And then we're frustrated with ourselves that we're not moving forward, or the progress that we want to be making isn't happening and maybe as quickly as we want. And so we really need to be curious about that. So this is some nuts and bolts about the how. There's no fluff in this. There's just like, okay, I didn't eat the way I wanted to. What happened? All right. Because then, we can make the most beautiful meal plan. When you're in your window of tolerance, maybe your interoceptive awareness is really great and you feel really excited and you feel really competent. And then when it's not there, it's not because you lack willpower. It's not because you don't know enough. It's that like something happened that was too much or not enough, activating these old strategies, and they take over And there's all kinds of ping-ponging that can happen inside because of that. And so we need to make some meaning of that and provide choices and agency. All right. So I hope this video was helpful. I mean, I could talk about this honestly all day long. I'm not going to do that here for you, but I just want to let you know what's possible, and that there's a lot of hope. So thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.